he probably had to teach the course. His chairman probably said, chairperson of the department said, Bob, you got to teach this course. Oh, man, I got to teach those kids. He would rather be writing his papers. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Getting your education, it's a lifelong process. Maintaining your curiosity is in my view, is an essential part of staying healthy, psycho-emotionally, psychologically. Maintaining your curiosity, being interested, moving, sometimes stepping out of your comfort zone. Your curiosity will do that. It'll cause you to drift into places where, it'll be maybe out of your comfort zone, and that's okay. But how can you not be curious? How can you not be curious? What in the devil are we caught up in anyway? Right? Just, to me, that's what that philosophy course was all about. Curiosity. People thinking about ideas and, everyday people and everyday life. If you ever noticed people that have that curiosity gene, I don't know if there is such a gene. They're interesting people because they will have idea. I mean, being curious will cause you to build your repertoire of ideas, and you'll lead a different life when you're curious. Yeah. And speaking of psychological health, remember a week or so ago, I said we need to talk more about psychological health on this show. And I said, let's see if we can find a psychologist or a psychiatrist to come on. Well,
we have Dr. Ellen Kenner. She'll be on Friday.
Yep.
And she hosts another radio show called The Rational Basis of Happiness. She's also wrote a book on happiness and wealth and health.
We're going to talk about happiness. It's part of health. And I have a survey today about happiness, too. Her name is Ellen what?
Dr. Ellen Kenner.
Kenner. She's been doing this a long time. I went to her website, and I'm anxious to meet Dr. Kenner. Gary talked with her yesterday. And thanks to our syndicator, Joe Sparrow, he made that happen. He's a good pal, man. Joe's always looking out for the show.
Great guy.
Love him. That guy, he's so transparent, enthusiastic about things.
Yes.
No frills, no, just straight ahead. What you see is right there in front of you, and good guy. He's done well by the show. He's our syndicator. He's been here. He came in. So we're going to have Dr. Kenner on. That'll be fun. We'll see. She's a relationship expert, too, by the way. Mm-hmm. And
I might accidentally slip her your cell phone number. Help you out a little.
Yeah, I need a lot of help with that. Yeah. Well, oh well. Okay. My relational life looks like a junkyard. All these rusting cars. Oh my goodness, compactor. Here's how to connect with the show.
You can reach us at 877-897-8255. That's 877-897-TALK. Dr. Garko's personal email is drgarko@letstalknutrition.com. Follow us, like us on Facebook at Let's Talk Nutrition, on the Instagram at Let's Talk Nutrition, and Let's Talk Nutrition on YouTube, where we have over 62,000 views now. We've got 1,100 videos. It's closed caption for the hearing impaired. So come out and join us on that. You get notifications when we come live.
In the Declaration of Independence, there's a phrase, in pursuit of happiness. Now think about that for a second. The Declaration of Independence, in the pursuit of happiness. That concept, to some it may sound a little too touchy-feely. Oh, come on, being happy, what are you talking about? Well, it is on the forefront of probably almost every person. How can I be happy? How can I lead a life where I can experience joy? And no matter what is going on around me, it's sometimes very difficult to do that. Very difficult. And it is part of health, wellness, and well-being. Usually when we talk about happiness, that is put into the arena of wellness, generally speaking, that concept. It involves your family, your friends, generally your social life, your work life. What are the things that make you happy, bring you joy? Grandchildren, maybe, your children. Do you know people that are not happy? That, it is, when you're around them, it's palpable. You know they're not happy. Where you live bears upon your happiness too. Where you live, believe it or not, I often say that. Geography. Sometimes there's not much we can do about that. So this new survey that's out, they wanted to talk about or examine the happiest cities in America. Now, how could that be? How could it be that there are some places in America, and there are thousands and thousands of cities, that some places generally survey to be happier than other places? And I said to Gary, what's going on there? What is it about those people or that place that makes it happy or happier or a better place to live in terms of happiness? We're going to take a look at that. And then there's another survey trending today, most and least stressed states. So today's survey day, and then there's a survey about health care. Let me tell you something. You want to get people into a bad mood? A bad mood, and you want them to get anxious? Start talking about health insurance and health care. What I think, politicians have screwed it up. Take away that wonderful health care that they give them because they're a congressman or a senator, and let them have to struggle and dig it out like everybody else. Watch how fast the columns line up. Welcome back to Let's Talk Nutrition. Happiest states in America, happiest cities in America, most stressed states in America. We're going to take a look at that, take a look at a survey also about health care. A new Gallup poll, recent Gallup poll, it's not good. This issue of health care can drive people into depression. Speaking of the opposite of happiness. We'll get to all of it. We always invite you to come in with us and talk and consider these things. You think about things and you have ideas and views. We'd love to hear from you. We want to know what's on your mind.
877-897-8255. That's 877-897-TALK.
Okay. So this coming Friday, we're going to have Dr. Kenner on. She's a happiness expert. She's a psychologist, relationship expert, and we'll get into it. So I'm sort of setting things up for her. Maybe I'll make it worse. I don't know. But happiest states. All right. So before we go there, let's just think about this for a second. What is it that fundamentally would make people happy? If they did this survey, they're going to have to consider that when they create the questions in the survey. They have to have some framework from which to develop the instrument that will determine and rank these states. Now, happiness. What is happiness? That's maybe not so easy to define. Is it a feeling? Is it a feeling of joy? Is it just that or excitement? I don't know. I think it's probably more than that. It implicates your emotional life, your psychological life, your relational life, your work life. There's so many dimensions of this concept. And there are many in this survey. They went and asked a bunch of experts about happiness, psychology, and professors. I was looking here. Yeah, all of them. And they talked to them and trying to get a sense of what would be the metrics to use here, the psychometrics for the survey. And to determine happiest states in America, Wallet Hub did the survey. They compared the 50 states across 3 key components or dimensions, as I was suggesting. Every squirrel gets an acorn once in a while. Look, emotional and physical well-being, absolutely. Work environment, on the top. Community and environment. Those were the 3 dimensions, and they evaluated those dimensions. They used 31 relevant or pertinent metrics. Yeah. And then they weighted those metrics. They weighted them. And they drew their analysis upon the findings of the following research. They looked at happy people live longer. That study, there was a study, Happiness from Ordinary and Extraordinary Experiences. They looked at that. Unhappiest cities. These were books or studies that were done, and trying to figure out exactly what do you ask people. Work environment. They looked at work environment, emotional and physical well-being. They looked at everything, at childhood experiences, adult depression, physical health, all sorts of variables. Suicide rates. They looked at, do people get enough sleep in these places? There were food insecurity rate, part of the variables for emotional and physical well-being. Illness and disability, life expectancy was another area that they developed for this with questions. Then work environment, number of hours worked, they asked. What's their commute time? What's the income level? Unemployment rate, long-term unemployment rate, job security, job satisfaction as part of their work environment. It doesn't make them happy. economic confidence. How much confidence do they have? Then they looked at community and environment. What's the volunteer rate in these different cities? What's the weather like? Their weather, of all things, right? Oh, yeah. What's average leisure time spent per day? They asked questions about that. Separation and divorce rate. How safe is it where you live? Those were some of the variables within those three dimensions of community and community and environment, work environment, and emotional and physical well-being. So they put some thought into this. Pretty good survey. Now, I have two experts in the studio, two producers of the show. I always add, Stephen has been good with this over the years. I mean, he should go on a quiz show. Okay, Mr. Quizman, what do you think is the happiest, got the number one ranking out of the states, out of the 50 states? Which one do you think was number one? I'll give you a hint. Warm weather.
For whatever reason, my gut would just be California.
Not a bad guess.
I'm going to go with Florida.
Not a bad guess. Hawaii. Number two, not so much warm weather there. Utah, ranked number two. Minnesota, my God, they wear a jacket in the summertime. Number three, North Dakota was happiest. Number four, California was 5, Idaho 6, Maryland 7, Iowa 8, South Dakota 9, 10 Nebraska. These are, my goodness, look at those states. They're the happiest places. You would never have picked those, I don't think.
Don't be
concept of happiness, I know it sounds a little touchy-feely, but let me tell you something. The amount of academic work that has gone into trying to understand what happiness is remarkable. When you span across you take a 30,000-foot view of this concept, you look to see it's been discussed in philosophy. It's been discussed in the different religions, Eastern religions, Abrahamic religions, whatever. In psychology, you have any number of theories, everything from Maslow's hierarchy of needs to self-determination theory to positive psychology. It's just remarkable how this concept has been explored, talked about, written about, theorized about, surveyed, studied, taken apart, put back together, and people are still trying to figure out how to be happy. Just astonishing. Some may think it's too touchy-feely. Let me tell you, I don't think so. I don't think so. In this survey by Wallet Hub, they looked at any number of the three major dimensions that I outlined for you and any number of variables within those dimensions. And so they broke apart, they went in and they started to analyze the data. And they looked at depression. Which states had the lowest share of adult depression? This is interesting. Which state do you think was number one with the lowest share of adult depression? Any guesses? What do you think? You need a mic.
Oregon.
Oregon? It's not a bad guess. I would have probably guessed that too, or it would have been on my mind.
Washington State.
It was New York.
Really?
New York. As a state, not as a city. New Jersey was number 2. Hawaii was 3, Texas was 4, California was 5, with the lowest share of adult depression. Which states had the highest share of adult depression? The state that you guessed was on the list at 50.
Oregon was on 50?
Yeah, New Hampshire, Kentucky, Arkansas, West Virginia, and Oregon. They had the highest share of adult depression in that order. Which states had the lowest suicide rates? It's interesting. Correlates with depression. New Jersey and New York had the 2 lowest. Utah and New Mexico, the 2 highest. Places, we talk about sleep on the show a lot. Mm-hmm. They even surveyed the people about sleep. Which states where people had the highest adequate of sleep? You think? It's hard to guess about these things, isn't it?
Yeah, because
what would cause one state to have more sleep
than the other? It doesn't. I would say like Vermont, Maine,
South Dakota, Colorado, Montana, Iowa, and North Dakota. What do you notice there? Midwest, North Midwest. And when you look at the happiest states, Gary, that top 10, what did we have in the top 10? Utah was 2, Minnesota 3, North Dakota 4, Idaho 6, Iowa 8, South Dakota 9, Nebraska 10. Midwest, Upper Midwest.
Right.
Maybe they're getting enough sleep. Maybe that's it. Let's see, what else? Places where people work the fewest hours. This is hard. In this order, Utah and then Oregon and Rhode Island were tied for second. Massachusetts, Michigan, and Vermont. That's where they work the fewest hours. Most worked hours, places such as, in this order, Louisiana, Texas, Wyoming, North Dakota, and Alaska. Interesting. This is interesting stuff. Oh, divorce. What places had the lowest divorce rates? What states? See, I'm starting to see a little bit of a pattern. Utah, North Dakota. Look at that. These northern, Midwestern, upper Midwest. New Jersey, Minnesota, and Hawaii. Highest divorce rate. New Mexico, Mississippi, Florida, where we are, Louisiana, and Nevada. Safest places to live. Safest places were Vermont, Maine, Minnesota, Utah, again, New Hampshire. Least safe, Florida, Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Mississippi. And those kind of variables were factored into trying to determine where were the happiest places to live. Where you live makes a difference. Where you live makes a difference. 877-897-8255. And then when they broke it down, what they did was they took the cities, the happiest cities. These were the top 10 happiest cities in the country. Plano, Texas, Irvine, California, Madison, Wisconsin, Fremont, California, Huntington Beach, California, Fargo, North Dakota, Grand Prairie, Texas, San Jose, California, Scottsdale, Arizona, San Francisco, California. Out of that top 10 happiest, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cities were out of California. I wonder what the least happiest cities were, the bottom. Let me take a look here real quick. Least happiest cities. Gulfport, Mississippi, Cleveland, Ohio, Birmingham, Alabama, Charleston, West Virginia, Toledo, Ohio, and Detroit, Michigan. It's interesting. You look, that northeastern, that Rust Belt, they've struggled over these past couple of decades, man. It's been tough. Been very difficult in the Ohio, Pennsylvania area. Tough stuff. Where you live makes a difference. Happiest cities, happiest states. Come back. I'm going to take a look at healthcare. Gallup did a recent survey. Today's survey day. Gallup did a recent survey about healthcare and how people feel about it. This does make people unhappy. I don't get it. I don't understand this. I never have understood it. And the more they debate it in Washington, the more they try to fix it, the more broken it is, and the worse it gets. Isn't there anybody around there with enough IQ and good sense and humanity to figure this out? People need health care. We're humans. We get sick. Flash. That's a news bulletin to those people in Washington. Please. the polling survey company, they do a great job. They've been around forever. I had a colleague that worked for Gallup. They have done a series of surveys about the healthcare system and medical issues, medical costs and whatnot, trying to figure out where Americans are attitudinally with respect to healthcare. Before I go there, they did a survey about. Coming out of that last block, I said I don't understand why we can't figure out this health care system and health insurance. After all, we all get sick. We get sick and we get injured. I mean, it's in our best interest for us to figure this out. Turns out that in this survey by Gallup, 25% of the population, 1 in 4 adults, reported in the survey that they have a pre-existing condition. 27% of U.S. adults say they personally have a long-term medical condition, illness, or disease that a health insurance company would consider a pre-existing condition. They said that this includes 16% who are the only family member in their home with such a condition, and 11% who reported living with a family member who also has a pre-existing condition. So more than 1 in 4, 27% of the population of adults. That's a lot of people. And what does that mean? Well, medically, they need to be taken care of. They need coverage. They need insurance. An additional 17% of U.S. adults say they do not personally have a pre-existing condition. That's it. 17%. But another family member in the house does. So it's almost impossible for a person to say, I don't know anybody who doesn't have a pre-existing condition. Either they have one or they know somebody, probably virtually every person. That's the nature of being a human being, man. And we can't figure this out. These data were collected in Gallup's annual health and healthcare survey. They do that every year. And if you're listening to the news right now, and we don't do politics on the show, I don't go there. This is back in the news. People, trying to get rid of Obamacare, trying to get rid of this and trying to do that and trying to whatever. And these people in Washington can't figure it out. I don't understand. I don't understand. Senior citizens who are mostly covered by Medicare are much more likely to report personally having a pre-existing condition. Well, of course. 38% of senior citizens said that they have a pre-existing condition. I'm surprised it was that low. In addition to older Americans, those who say they are overweight are especially likely to report having a pre-existing condition. 34%. And that's a point that I've been making on this show since I don't know when. I've been saying all along, obesity, overweight and obesity, the downstream effects, the consequences, how it impacts people's health it's almost incalculable. You cannot even put a metric to it. And we got 70% of the population that's overweight or obese. And we're fighting about and trying to figure out, we better figure out how to protect ourselves. And you can't turn around and say, oh, this is somebody else's problem. This is all of us. We're all in it together. And we all have to pay for it together. We all have to, there's not one person listening or watching this show that's not going to get sick, get injured, and die. Forgive me for being so patently obvious. Is health care a privilege? Is it a right? Is it something that we should expect? This is our society. We create it. I don't get it. I just don't get it. I don't know why. Other countries have figured this out. We wrench over it. Wrench. Ever since I've been an adult, it's all I've heard about is health care. My mom and dad worried about it all the time. I'm sure in your household the same thing. My dad was worried sick about it, poor thing, and he died a terrible death. Terrible. You know, average people trying to get along, they're afraid to get, people worry about getting sick. They can't even afford to get sick. I don't know. What have we done? This is an area where it is so fraught with peril, politically and otherwise. And that's the problem. How did politics get in the way of us taking care of ourselves? I don't get it. I just don't get it. Maybe you all can make sense of it. I thought I had enough IQ to understand this. Apparently I don't, because I don't understand it. I just don't.
877-897-8255. That's 877-897-TALK. Have you go for checkups all the time, right?
I have to.
And until when?
For the rest of my life. I go next month. No, what am I talking about? We are in April. I go. Let me tell you, I grew up in a household where my sister, God rest her soul, was very challenged, had double pneumonia when she was an infant, did severe brain damage. I grew up with this and watched my mother and father struggle. And she needed care. You know, people that have money, this is no big deal. Those politicians in Washington have the best insurance on the planet, man. Take that away from them. Let them have to pay for their own. Let them try to figure it out and scramble around like you and me and everybody else. You watch how fast this would get corrected. That's about as political as I get. I'll shut up about it. It just makes me mad. We deserve better. We're all in this together. I don't care what your religion is, your race, your color, your sexual preference. It makes no difference. We got to take care of one another. Don't we? Shouldn't we? I think so. I'll see you in a bit. I'll be back. Okay, so now we know where the happiest states in America are and the happiest cities within those states. We got that figured out. Welcome to Let's Talk Nutrition. That's what we talked about in the first hour. I introduced the idea of healthcare. Gallup has done a number of surveys this year and last year too about healthcare. And I'll share with you some of the things that they found regarding healthcare. You talk about, you can't, usually healthcare and happiness don't happen in the same sentence. And my question is, why is that? And, there are some things, I guess, that can be politicized and maybe should be, or I don't know much about that, nor do I care. But when it comes to health and when it comes to wellness and well-being, there's no place for politics there. If we were a small village and we had to take care of one another, don't you think we would do that? We probably would, and we have examples of that. And because we knew we were all in it together, but we're not a small village. There are, what's the population of the planet? The population of the United States is what, 300 plus million people. And I guess we lose sight of that we have to take care of one another. We do. Now, some people may disagree with that and say everybody's on their own. Really? Is that the case? Really? I don't think so. We're all in it together. And so you would think that we would figure out. I was telling Gary when we finished that first hour, I said, why don't we treat ourselves as a society and create the best health care we could have anywhere on the planet? Don't we deserve that as a society? And people will pay for it. People will pitch in. I believe that. But politics gets in the way and all this other stuff gets in the way, and we can't get it done. It's so silly. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a deluded idealist. You're probably laughing at me saying, boy, he needs to get real. I just think that we can figure it out. And and any one of you listening or watching this show who has been confronted with a serious illness or a family member or even a close friend, and you see the stress and the strain that it puts on the individual and the family and the caregivers, and then to throw on top of that, how are we going to pay for this? People have lost their homes, have gone bankrupt because they got sick, lost everything. Not only did they lose their health, but now they don't even have a place to live. Why would that happen? That shouldn't happen. I don't know. Puzzling to me. Maybe you all have an answer. You can tell us.
You can call us at 877-897-8255. That's 877-897-TALK. And it makes you think why people go overseas or other countries to get health care, Doc.
They're looking because it's cheaper for them to buy a plane ticket, get the hotel reservations and all that, and go get the procedure done someplace else. That's ridiculous. We talked about that. I forget the language. What's the language? I always forget that. I don't know why. Because I find the concept so abhorrent, I guess. I have a block where people go in other countries to get their medical care because they can't afford it here. That's crazy. Crazy. I don't know. I don't know why human beings do this to one another. We should care about each other. I thought we were supposed to know that. I sound like a flaming idealist, don't I? I'm sorry. I can't help it. I was raised that way.
Well, you're passionate about it.
It's what my mother and father taught me. It's what I know. It's all I know. I don't know any other way. And listen, this is what I do know, and I'm telling you this from my heart. When I got sick and fought for my life, the one thing I told Gary this a million times, One of the things I learned was that most of the time, most people are mostly good. I believe that in my heart of hearts. I know that. I saw it with my own eyes. I saw what people did for me. Strangers. And I said, I remember the day it occurred to me. I was so sick. And I said, most people, most of the time are mostly good. Most of the time, most people are mostly good. And I know that's true. And I believe in the end that emerges and bubbles up to the top and we do the right thing. But getting there is so painful, for heaven's sake. We deserve to treat each other better and to have better health care for ourselves. So why don't we do that? Why don't we look for that gift and give it to ourselves? I don't know. Anyway, you get my point. You get my point.
Well, it's like this. You know, I have a very close friend. She's a nurse practitioner, and we were talking the other day and having a discussion. You can go to school in Canada, in high school, and you can graduate as an RN. Okay, from high school.
Wow.
You don't get a degree. You get a certificate. You can come to Florida and use that certificate to work. Now, you can go into the United States Army, become a nurse, and then they train you. You graduate from the United States Army. You cannot work as a nurse in the state of Florida. You have to go and take a test and get certified and everything else.
But you can go to high school in Canada and graduate with a nursing certificate.
Yes.
And come to the U.S. and practice being a nurse.
Yes, and I couldn't believe that. And I Googled it, and I was...
Was it true?
Yes, and I just looked at her like, same as a paramedic, same as a fireman, same as you can go in the United States Army, work on MacDill Air Force Base, which is down the road from us in the state of Florida. But after you leave there, you have to go take a test or you have to take a crossover class.
Yeah, as if the education in the military was not good. It's first class.
And, you know, Walter Reed is a Army hospital. I'm just saying.
Yes, it is.
Just saying, the guy Ronnie went there and got some health issues taken care of. And
Reagan, you talking about Reagan?
Yeah.
Ronnie. You know, in retrospect, I've come to really respect him. In retrospect,
yeah.
I didn't appreciate him much when he was alive. Now I do.
It's, you know, I don't want to get, and this is a non-political show, and we don't talk about politics on here, but healthcare is something I think that us as individuals should decide on.
As a society, well, we've been trying to do that. We're trying to figure it out, you know, but I don't know. There's something happens between the people in the trench, us every day in our life, and the politicians in Washington, and trying to put something together that we can all. Why do we have to worry about that?
Well, I went yesterday to pick up some prescriptions, and I sat behind a lady, and I'm waiting in line and everything, and they came up with the final bill for her, and I went, "Oh my gosh, that's a house payment."
What was it, $600, $700, $800?
So around about $825.
There you go.
She turned around to me and said, "Honey, I pay that every month." She goes, "It's cash out of my pocket." And she goes, "I have Medicaid and Medicare, I guess.
Medicare.
And whatever." And $820, that's
a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. And you look at her, you didn't think she was unhealthy. She wasn't overweight. Just probably in her late 60s, early 70s.
I don't know. Maybe I'm Mr. Obvious here, Captain Obvious, or General Obvious. But it seems to me that humans get sick, humans have accidents, humans die, and humans need to be cared for. Right? This isn't hard, man. So why don't we do that? Come back, I'm going to tell you about sugar. Oh, how sweet it is. Tell you about a study here taking a look at sugar and some other things on the stove cooking too. Ridgecrest Herbals are understand that consuming too much sugar is not a good idea. It doesn't take much to figure that out, right? And there have been so many studies taking a look at the sweet danger of sugar, no doubt. And it is at every bend and turn in our food culture. And these food scientists that work for these companies, these food companies, have figured out what the best bliss point is, a bliss point of all things. They know exactly how much sugar to put in a product, like Goldilocks, not too sweet, just right. And then combine that with salt and fat. And you put those three things together, and you can get people to buy your product all day long. It turns out that added sugar to your diet, found in the food, the added sugar, there's sugar in vegetables and fruit naturally. It's naturally occurring. That's not the problem. The problem is the added sugar. It can be one of the greatest threats to health generally, cardiovascular health specifically, and other particular health issues. And it does have a bittersweet reputation. We evolved to like it. And as I said, it occurs naturally in all carbohydrate-based foods, naturally occurring foods, fruits, vegetables, grain. It's not an evil compound in and of itself. It's necessary, after all. And, they add it to soft drinks, the fruit drinks. They add it. Yogurt. Yogurt is not yogurt anymore. I don't know what it is. I don't know what to call it. They put it in cookies, crackers, cakes, candy, chips, crisps. It's all those C words. Excess sugar's impact on obesity, it is at center stage. It is one of the usual suspects at the scene of the obesity crime. In 2014, there was a study, there are a million of them, I don't know which one to pick, in a journal, the American Medical Association Internal Medicine journal. And they found an association between high sugar diet and a greater risk of dying from heart disease. And you thought it was the fat, which is not off the hook. Over the course of it was a 15-year study. People who got 17% to 21% of their calories from added sugar, those people had almost a 4 in 10 chance of a higher risk of dying from cardiovascular disease compared to people who only had an 8% of their calories from sugar. They had a 38% risk of dying from cardiovascular disease when they got 17 to 21% of their calories from added sugar. Notice my language, added sugar. Eating an apple is not going to give you a heart attack, man. The higher the intake of added sugar, the higher the risk for heart disease, said Dr. Hugh in the study, the lead author. High amounts of sugar overload, they tax the liver. Your liver metabolizes everything and metabolizes sugar the same way as it does alcohol and converts dietary carbohydrates to what? If you consume too much of it, what is it converted to? The 3-letter word, the F word, fat. That is an evolutionary feature of ours. That was a survival mechanism. Because as we evolved, we went through great periods of famine. Our ancient ancestors. And biologically, as a species, we naturally selected to store energy. Fat is a source of And it, by the way, fat has twice as much energy, twice as many calories per gram. It has 9 calories per gram compared to a carbohydrate or a protein molecule. 9. And there's a reason for that, because it gets stored as triglycerides. Triacylglycerols, is they're called, or triglycerides. That is a storage. That's how fat is stored throughout the body. And it's a survival mechanism, and it has served us well, but it's not serving us well now. Why? Because when we developed that mechanism, it was a time of scarcity. Now it's a time of abundance. And that conflicts with our biology. And it's gotten us into a lot of troubles. Listen, you walk down the street at random, assuming it's a random selection. 7 out of 10 of the people that you pick are going to be overweight or obese. Are you kidding me? So it's, that's just one more study in the long list of studies about added sugar. Do I think you should quit putting honey in your tea? No. No.
Okay, because I just got that over.
No. Oh, you did?
Yeah.
What did they say?
What about honey? That's all the question was what about honey?
Honey is sugar. It is. It's not, it is what it is. Do I think you should not eat honey? I don't think that at all. I add honey to my tea. You saw me put honey on my sprouted grain vegan bagel this morning. It's the added sugar in the processed obesogenic foods.
Don't be stressed out or anxious.
is having what? Bypass surgery?
Valve replacement surgery.
Is that today or did they already do it?
Friday.
He is he's 75. And I'm amazed that he's got here this far without, headed into a hospital. Valve replacement, huh?
Yeah.
Is he on record of saying anything?
I sent you the story. Let me see.
He apparently
he apologizes because he had to cancel some gigs. I didn't even know they were still touring.
Well, the heart surgery postponed the tour. The Rolling Stone, they're on. That guy works, man. You can say whatever you want about him.
Yeah.
Well, he looks every bit as this one photograph I'm looking at. Oh my God. These guys are older than dirt. I should talk.
They're going to do a stent also.
Mm-hmm. He has heart disease. Remember, I asked you that. I said, does he have heart disease as well? Of course he does. Notice that he's not obese. And he's upset. He said, I really hate letting you down like this. I'm devastated for having to postpone the tour, but I'll be working very hard to be back on stage as soon as I can, close quote. That's that man's purpose. That's what keeps him alive. The first reported news of heart valve surgery will take place this Friday in New York. He's expected to make a full recovery and return to the tour this summer. That's good. Good for him, man. Paparazzi are all over the place trying to get pictures of him. I'm looking at this one photograph of him. He looks for the wear, Gary.
Mm-hmm.
He looks for the wear. Those guys in that band, you take a group. You take that group picture and you say, geez, what happened? What happened was a 50-year-plus career of playing music on the road, being a rock star. That's what happened. I wish him well. I wish him well. He's entertained people. Those guys are amazing. And for that group to stay together that long is remarkable, too.
One of the things I thought was funny about him, though, is that he was asked, do you sing your own music in the shower? He goes, I do sing in the shower, just not my own music.
Yeah. Fast food. Let me do a little thing on fast food for you, in case you forgot. Now, I must say, not all fast food is a fast way to get sick. Not all of it. I think it's safe to say that a large portion of it is, and the consumption of fast food is, without question, one of the main reasons for rising trends in the overweight and obesity epidemic. Any of these companies that say they have nothing to do with it, whether it's soft drink companies and these sugary drinks or all the junk food that's made, and say, oh, we're just making cookies. We're just making chips. You can't blame it on us. You know what? Stop it. It's responsible for overweight and obesity, cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, and a host, an array of other metabolic anomalies and disorders. The problem with fast food that is so quickly available, the availability of it, and without exception, where it's being imported into other cultures, what happens? We now have a body of work of science that shows that when it's imported to cultures where before it never existed, what happens? Within a few years, it doesn't take long, you start to see the development of heart disease goes up, cancer rates go up. Yes, overweight and obesity goes up. It doesn't take decades and decades. This happens almost as quick as the food was made and consumed. It's remarkable. And the results from this one study, I want to give them attribution. Bahaduran and others in the study, they looked at fast food pattern and cardiometabolic disorders. It's a pretty good little study. They just went and did a little review of the literature. Nothing that was exceptional, and just a regular review of the literature. And they found that fast food consumption was associated with the risk of overweight and obesity. Of course they did. Of course they did. They found that, and there's one study after another, one after another. They found that fast food consumption was connected to dyslipidemia. What is dyslipidemia? That's when your LDL is too high, your HDL is too low, and your cholesterol is at a reading that's the IQ of a genius. Anything over 200, you know. Fast food consumption and the risk of diabetes, off the chain. Metabolic syndrome, off the chain. Cardiovascular disease, off the chain. They found that as well. They confirmed it. Anthropometrically, fast food, one study after another. Scores, maybe hundreds. Waist circumference increases like nobody's business. The abdominal visceral fat is just dreadful. And it is the mechanism of action that's contributing. It's part of the mechanism of action that contributes to these diseases because it's so pro-inflammatory. It's pumping out hormones left and right that contribute to diseased arteries and so on. It's the visceral fat. They now call it an endocrine organ. Yeah. Fast food. Now, there is fast food that is not too bad. You have to be very, there's this, where I live, there's a Chinese restaurant. It is fast food, but they make soup, vegetable soup. It's good. Broccoli, vegetable. It's great. And they make these vegetable dishes. All things considered, not bad. Not bad. So it can be done. It's the unhealthy fast food. And that's what dominates, really. And it has put us in a ditch. 7 out of 10 people in America are overweight or obese. Who would have ever thought?
Want to get at the core issue?
Talk Nutrition. I have the LTN health question of the day. Earlier in the show today, I talked about a couple surveys. It was survey day today. Happiest cities, happiest states in America. Which of the following was the happiest state in America? Here they are. Pick one. Hawaii, Utah, Minnesota, or North Dakota. Which one of those? I can throw in California, too. I'll give you 5 choices. Which one of these states was considered the happiest state in the Union? Hawaii, Utah, Minnesota, North Dakota, or California? What do you think? Here's the number to call to win a $25 gift card, and you'll be happy.
877-897-8255. That's 877-897-TALK.
Are you happy yet? On this Friday, we're going to have Dr. Ellen Kenner, on the show. She's a psychologist, a relationship and happiness expert. She has her own radio show, and I'm excited about having her on. I said that we were going to have more shows talking about mental health, psychological health, Yes, it's important. We're going to do it. So we're going to have her on this Friday. I'm looking forward to it. Gary talked to her yesterday. You said that she was engaging and.
Oh yes, very. They were getting her car fixed, and she just very, 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 very engaging, very talkative. Knew what she wanted to talk about. Knew what as I said, mentioned to her about health and wellness and happiness and how it goes hand in hand. And she goes, oh, yes. So
okay. Oh, yeah. She's dialed in. She'll get it.
She's got a couple books out. So
good. Dr. Ellen Kenner. She's been doing this for a long time. And I checked her out. Pretty good. Very good. We'll look forward to talking with her. We'll get into happiness even more. Okay. Now, another survey today, last one. Most and least stressed states. Which of the following, if you had to guess, it was the most stressed? Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, Kentucky, West Virginia. My God, they're all in the South. Which one of those? What do you think? Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, Kentucky, or West Virginia? You had to guess, Gary. Pick one.
West Virginia.
Usually they're always in the lead on bad things. Not this time. They only came in. They're in at number 5. Louisiana.
Wow.
Louisiana was the 1. Mississippi 2. Arkansas 3. Kentucky 4. West Virginia 5. Then followed by New Mexico, Alabama, Nevada, and Alaska, and then finally Oklahoma. Florida was number 11. These are the most stressed states. What we're looking for is the happiest state. Is the happiest state Hawaii, Utah, Minnesota, North Dakota, or California? I'll give you a hint. The letter H.
Hawaii.
We'll see. Call and give us the answer.
Maybe. I don't know.
877-897-8255. Give us a call. We want you to win. Stress. Talk a lot about stress on the show. It dominates. It truly does. And they looked at variables that cause people stress, like housing. The least affordable housing, most affordable housing. Most affordable housing was in Ohio, North Dakota, Kansas, Nebraska, and Iowa. Least affordable housing, least affordable. Hawaii, California, New York, Massachusetts, and Oregon. Makes sense. Highest percent of population living in poverty. Mississippi was number 1. Lowest percent of population living in poverty was Hawaii. That's a clue to today's question. What was the most happiest state in the Union? Highest crime rate per capita, New Mexico. Lowest crime rate per capita, Idaho. Followed by New Jersey. New Jersey was, you thought it would have a high crime rate? No. New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine. They all had low crime rates. New Mexico, Alaska, Louisiana, Tennessee, and Arkansas all had high crime rates. A lot of variables go into, I just wanted to share that with you. So we covered a lot of territory today. Happiest states, happiest cities, most stressed states, some Gallup surveys. Most Americans, 1 in 4 has a pre-existing condition. Know this, according to Gallup, 7 in 10 people in our country maintain negative views of the U.S. healthcare system. Oh, I'm so shocked I'm going to fall out of the chair. 6 in 10 Americans worry about higher healthcare premiums. Of course we do. We all do. And I'll go back to what I said. Why is it that we cannot figure this out? We're in this together. That's the problem. We don't see it that way, maybe, huh? If we saw it as we're all in this together, we got to take care of one another, we might do better. Let's go to Tuscaloosa, speaking of Alabama. And Lisa's there. Lisa, welcome to the show. Which state was the happiest one, Lisa?
Is it Hawaii?
Yeah, aloha. Have you ever been?
No, but I want to go.
I want to go too. I have not been. My daughter's been. Everybody I know has been there, and they say, and everybody comes back and say, "Boy, that's a great place." I can't get there, so I don't know. But congratulations. Alabama usually ends up in these surveys, you know, in terms of health and wellness. It's usually not at the top of the list, so I'm sorry about that. But I hope you're doing well. You doing well?
Yes, I'm doing good.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you for listening to the show today.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's our pleasure. And thank you, too. Wherever and however you may have listened or watched the show today, we appreciate it very much. We try to cover the bases. Again, this Friday, Dr. Ellen Kenner will be on. Looking forward to it. Psychologist. I don't have very many come on. We're going to bring them on more, try to get more on if I can. We need to talk about mental health. We need to talk about stress from that perspective. Why? Because your health is your wealth, and your health is the wealth of those that care about and love you. I'll see you tomorrow.
Everyone's raving about the newest botanical superstar hitting the store shelves nationwide. Hemp-derived cannabidiol, or CBD, has been receiving a lot of attention.
Needs a little sunshine on it, a little light. We'll do that. Well, what's trending? Anything trending, Gary, that got your attention?
Well, I didn't know what an ACL was. Now it was trending because there was a major athlete that went down, an NBA athlete, that's going to end up missing the whole season with an ACL for next season. Yeah,
wasn't LeBron James, was it?
No. It was the guy that was getting ready to go into the draft. So,
bad luck.
Yeah, from Auburn. So, as a Florida fan, I would say that's really bad. Sorry. But what's an ACL? That's what my thing was, because they always talk about torn ACL.
This happens a lot in football. The science, the surgical science, has been pretty good in saving athletes' careers. It's at the anterior cruciate ligament, anterior front. It's one of the key ligaments that stabilizes your knee joint. You have the ACL, you have the MCL, medial. Medial means toward the middle. It's on the inside. ACL, front. Then you have posterior. The ACL will connect to your, if you get an image of it, you'll see that the ACL ligament will connect to the femur. Your femur is your thigh bone. And then the ACL connects to your thigh bone to your shin bone, which is the tibia. It's the most commonly torn, imagine that, ligament sports injury. It usually happens with a sudden stop or change in direction. You know, you twist. It's no fun. Ask any. I mean, it can be career ending. But that the surgeons have really done some remarkable things. Downhill skiers, soccer players, basketball, football players. Anytime you're jumping and landing, sudden stops. It's almost any, baseball, whatever. It's just it's connective tissue. You'll hear when it's injured, you'll hear a loud pop in the knee, and the pain is severe, and it swells up right away, and you have a feeling of instability or giving way, and with weight bearing. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Don't tear your ACL.
Mm.
Medial means middle, toward the middle of your body. Medial. Anterior's toward the front, posterior toward the back. There's the MCL too. Sometimes athletes will tear both of them, ACL and MCL. Yeah.
Can you take anything to strengthen it?
Sports trainers will tell you, physical trainers will tell you to build up the muscle around your knee, in your legs, to take the blow. But you can see athletes that are very fit. That's a great question. Can you nourish it such that it would be stronger? The answer to that is probably yes. And can you structurally reinforce it with more muscle? Probably. I've never looked at it that way. But most people listening and watching the show today don't have to worry about an ACL. What they do have to worry about is their bone health.
And that's totally different, right?
Of course.
Okay.
Here we're talking. Now, the ligaments, tendons connect muscle to bone. Ligaments connect bone to bone. You can see in that schematic that you have up there. You see it? You see how you have the ligaments connecting one bone. That's what allows you to move the bones, right? You got bones there. They got to be connected in some way. It's not nuts and bolts.
Mm.
And so this allows, and the muscles allow for movement. This allows the joint to move. The muscle moves the whole bone. Nature's amazing, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
When you study when you take anatomy and physiology course, how elegant the body is. I mean, it's just cracks me up, man. It does. It's just nature. Things are such obvious things are still so mysterious. I mean, to me that's so mysterious. How did that? How did we evolve? You look at all animals, and you look at their anatomy, and how we work biologically, physiologically. It's astonishing. It truly is astonishing.
Especially to that design. How did we evolve to that design?
Out of necessity, called natural selection. We naturally selected to have it structured that way. Worked out, but given the environment, given the circumstances, context is everything.
Mary from Odessa asked, glucosamine for joints?
And glucosamine, MSM. Yeah. It all works together. You need to keep the bones healthy. You need to keep the joints healthy. We'll talk a little bit about bone health today. It's a big deal. Bone health. Osteoporosis is bad news. Bad news all the way around. And people think, oh, it's just for elderly women. Wrong, 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 wrong. So we'll try to dispel some myths today. And you can, there's some, dietarily speaking and supplement speaking, you can do a lot for your bone health. You might want to participate in a conversation.
877-897-8255. That's 877-897-TALK. Dr. Garko's personal email is drgarko@letstalknutrition.com. Follow us, like us, and share us on Facebook. You can also send messages at Let's Talk Nutrition, on the Instagram at Let's Talk Nutrition, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Let's Talk Nutrition, where we have over 62,000 views, 1,100 videos on there.
So you have a woman living in Nebraska, Gary.
Okay.
She's 61 years old. How do you think she spends her day?
Like everybody else, wakes up, maybe has a cup of coffee, go to work, or volunteer somewhere.
What if I told you? What if I told you she gave birth to a granddaughter? What? Exactly. Whiplash. We come What? How did she spend her day? Well, she served as a surrogate for her son. Surrogate for son. Gives birth to granddaughter after serving as surrogate for son. Yeah. Let's take a look at that and see what's going on with that. That was the last thing you thought I would say about a 61-year-old woman living in Nebraska.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, we'll check it out. There's other things going on in the news, too. You can't make this stuff up. You just can't. Nutrition. Now, you're going to have to pay real close attention to keep the parties straight here. This is complicated. All right. So, we have a woman. She's 61 years old now, and she lives in Nebraska. Nice lady. And she has a son. His name is Matthew Eldridge. And his mother's name is Cecile. Okay? Mother and son. The son, Matthew, is gay. And he married his boyfriend, whose name is Elliot Doherty. That's his husband. Okay? So we got 3 parties so far. The mom, Cecile Eldridge, her son, Matthew Eldridge, and then Matthew's husband, Elliot Doherty. Okay, so what happens now is the Nebraska man and his husband wanted to have a child. Well, obviously they don't have the biology to do that, so they were looking for a volunteer, a surrogate, to give birth to a baby for them. Turns out that Matthew's mom, who at the time was 60, went in and they examined her, evaluated her as to whether she would be a candidate to be a surrogate. Well, she did. And the couple, Matthew and his husband, Elliot, they were married in 2015. So, what did they do here now? You have Doherty, Matthew's husband, the Dohertys, 26-year-old sister. So, Matthew's husband has a sister. She's 26. She donated the egg. Matthew donated the sperm, fertilized it, and then they implanted the fertilized egg into Matthew's mom's uterus, and she carried the baby to term. Did y'all follow that?
Trail of breadcrumbs.
Holy moly. You can't make that up. The doctor, Dr. Carolyn Maud Doherty, said there are very few 60-year-olds who could do this. No kidding, Doc. Cecile Eldridge's doctor, that's her. That was Dr. Carolyn Maud Doherty. Oh my God. She looked great. The grandmother, who's now 61, I'm looking at a photograph of her. Gary, she doesn't look 61. She's in great shape. They say that she was in a good physical specimen. It's terrible to talk about a human being like that. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Can you just imagine? I mean, the whole world has changed. Everybody in that family. Give the grandmother some props, brother. I mean, to carry a baby to term for a 60-year-old to do that, my God, for a 26-year-old to do that is tough stuff. That's not so easy. Women do it all the time, but it's taken for granted. It's hard. Nature will have it that, nature's agenda is to have humans propagate early and often. Early and often. That's nature's agenda. To perpetuate the species. I just thought, I thought you would find that story interesting. You talk about a family affair. Oh my goodness. Really something. I was sweating. It caught my attention. I thought, my good. Well, you know what? They all pulled together, and everybody's happy. All's well. That ends well in the end. Tell them again how to connect, please.
877-897-8255. 877-897-TALK. Dr. Garko, again, is his personal emails. Dr. Garko at letstalknutrition.com. Don't forget to go on Instagram at Let's Talk Nutrition, on Facebook at Let's Talk Nutrition, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Let's Talk Nutrition on YouTube.
This Friday, Dr. Ellen Kenner is going to be on. She's a psychologist. She's a relationship expert and a happiness expert. As I promised, we're going to do more of that on the show. I need to do that. That's part of wellness, man. And going forward, I want to include that theme into the show. It's important to do it. Dominique Ostrander will be my guest. She knows a lot about bone health, so we'll get her to chat about that. Try to inform you. Men need to pay attention to this. Osteoporosis is not a woman's disease. Now, we have to stop thinking like that. Yeah. Show's fun to do, man. Crazy stories, and I like that. I like those kind of stories. Mm-hmm. That took a remarkable effort. We've come a long way. We've come a long way. I think it's all for the better. Welcome back. Welcome to Let's Talk Nutrition. Dominic Ostrander is my guest today, and going to talk a little bit for sure about bone health. We haven't addressed this in a while, and I thought, boy, we need to put a little light on this topic. It affects everybody. It's not just one of the myths out there. This is a disease of the elderly and of women. No, wrong. So let's get into it. As I said, Dominique Ostrander is our guest, and she's an educator for Jarrow Formulas. Dominique, welcome to back again to Let's Talk Nutrition. And
Thank you very much.
I hope you're having a good day today. So far,
So far. It's still early.
So far, so good?
Yeah, so far, so good.
Uh-huh. Jarrow Formulas has devoted some time and attention to this health issue over the years, hasn't it?
Definitely. Actually, many, 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 many years ago. Oh, my gosh. I don't even know when one of the actually leading bone supplements sold throughout the world was formulated from Jarrow. And, I would like to know that bit of information myself, actually. I should find that out when Bone Up came to be.
Well, what do you think? I'm 20 years ago?
I would say it's probably about coming up on 20 years. Yeah, I would say.
What is it about that product that has made it sustain? I mean, that product has been really around so long. It's been in the marketplace. Obviously, it works. Otherwise, I know Jarrow, he would have pulled it.
Right. Well, and it's interesting. To this day, we still get the testimonials from customers that have bought it that have been osteopenic and then have reversed osteopenia, and people that actually even have osteoporosis and were able to benefit from it and reverse their osteoporosis. So, and those testimonials still keep coming in. So, what's not broken, don't fix it, right? So, Bone Up, I do believe it's the form, the entire blend actually that's involved in Bone Up. And so what distinguishes Bone Up is the microcrystalline hydroxyapatite.
And what is that? What is that microcrystalline hydroxyapatite?
So it actually produces more prolonged calcium balance and soluble calcium salts. So it's osine MCHA for short, and it provides both inorganic constituents found in human bone and the organic bone growth factors that actually will stimulate bone osteoblasts. So you're getting it from two different ways, and then along with everything else that's in the Bone Up. Because remember when, I guess it was, a couple years ago where everybody was freaking out about bone supplements and too much calcium and you're going to get plaque in your arteries and all of that?
Yes.
Remember that?
Yes, I do.
Right, and so that was a big deal, and I'm not minimizing that. That's definitely important. But one of the things that was well thought about when this was formulated was that so that excess calcium can be shuttled out where it's not wanted is part of what is included in Bone Up. So, for example, MK7 and boron and other things that actually help to reduce the excretion of calcium where we need it, and yet help it along where you don't. So again, it has to do, and that's ideally what you want to look for in a bone supplement. You want to look for everything that helps your bones maintain bone density, increase bone density, as well as not have any other side effects. The other thing that's really important, which a lot of people that are given prescription drugs, like a Fosamax or something like that to increase bone density, is that there's a tremendous amount of stomach upset. So, and that's not a small thing, because the supplement, the RXs that doctors can prescribe for people can cause tremendous GERD and reflux, and actually to a very dangerous point. So stomach upset is a big, big side effect of taking bone density building supplements or prescription drugs, where Bone Up has none of that. The biggest deterrent that we've had over the years with Bone Up is, oh my gosh, I have to take 6 capsules.
Okay,
That really has been the biggest deterrent.
that's what sort of pushes people away because you have to take 6 a day. What do? Take 3 at a time?
Exactly. So that's what we always say. So 3 in the morning and then 3 in the evening, or 3 with your bigger meals of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a bone-up, actually 3 per day, and we have a bone-up powder. So that does sort of help as far as the quantity. But here's the thing. So if you have osteopenia, you probably don't even have to take all 6. You could probably start by taking like 3 to 4 and have significant improvement and possibly even reverse osteopenia rather than taking all 6. But I think if you're already at the point where you have osteoporosis, then the full dosage is highly recommended.
This is such a common disease, but there's so much understanding that swirls around it, all the different myths associated with it. And I guess I know we'll get to that today. I want to talk about that, and we'll see where it goes. As a woman, are you concerned about osteoporosis?
Well, it's very funny that you mentioned this. So I was literally scheduled for a DEXA scan on Monday.
I'm glad you mentioned. We'll talk about DEXA scan. Go ahead.
Okay, so I was scheduled for a DEXA scan on Monday, and I was held up at a meeting that I was having, and so I actually couldn't get to the DEXA scan on time, so I had to cancel it. But I was, in the back of my mind, I know I have to do this because it's just part of routine care, and it's been years since I've had one, and so one of my physicians really wants me to have this done. And so I'm like, yeah, but I exercise all the time. I do weight-bearing exercises. I'm not a small, petite Asian woman. I've never smoked. I don't have all of the things that would, contribute to having osteopenia or even osteoporosis. So I wasn't that concerned, honestly. But I should be, though.
Why? Why should you be?
I'll tell you what. One of the pharmaceuticals that I was on has that as a side effect. To have hip fractures.
Say that again?
One of the pharmaceutical drugs that I've been on for a very long time has hip fractures as a side effect. And so people that have been on this particular drug for a long time, they recommend that you have a DEXA scan. I don't know how, I think every 3 years or something.
Mm-hmm.
And, so that's another story for another day about this pharmaceutical drug that I've come to find out more and more things about.
Okay. We're going to get into all of this. Again, I can't underscore how important this topic is. I wanted Dominique sort of to set the tone. Come back, we'll get into it. Bone health for everybody.
Feel tired, lethargic, or irritable? Take Solace.
Osteoporosis is a common disease. Its hallmark is decreased bone mass, increased bone turnover, and increased susceptibility to fracture. Let me repeat that. The hallmarks of osteoporosis are decreased bone mass, increased bone turnover. In other words, the faster the faster reabsorption occurs, the more likely you're going to suffer from osteoporosis. And there's increased susceptibility to fracture. Nearly 44 million Americans are estimated to have low bone mass. And that does what? It puts them at risk of developing osteoporosis and fractures. Osteoporosis is diagnosed by a low bone density measurement. They call it the BMD. And because that low MD is known to contribute to increased fracture risk, which is the main source of morbidity and mortality for osteoporosis. My guest is Dominique Ostrander, and she's thought a lot about this, has talked a lot about it. Dominique, I know that the DEXA scan, we'll talk about that. We'll get to that. This last week, I was working on a project taking a look at this issue of bone health and osteoporosis. And I was reading this one article where they employ the other kind of markers, urine and plasma and blood markers, to help diagnose a patient. What is your take on that? How do you feel about that?
Well, honestly, that's something that I guess I've always come to rely on a DEXA scan for those kinds of things, for determining whether or not there's adequate bone density. I understand that I'm sure if your minerals are low, if there's things that are in your blood work that are pointing to this can set you up for osteopenia, regardless of your. Some people have a lot of difficulty absorbing minerals and things like that, or can't handle dairy products, for example, products that we know contain good sources of calcium, for example, and so nutritionally they might be sort of poor in that area, and then their blood work will show that, and then we can look at that and say, oh, does this set up a patient for developing osteopenia?
Well, we'll get into that. We'll get into this in the second hour. We had a question on the internet. The listener is taking a different product, and it also requires 6 tablets a day. And she was asking, what was the question, Gary? She's only taking what, 2?
Only taking 2 because she's getting 50% from food and 50 another.
How does she know how much she's getting from food? That's hard to measure, isn't it?
I don't know.
Definitely. You can count. There's ways to, kind of, I think, guesstimate. How accurate that is.
Really? I couldn't do it. I wouldn't know how much. I'm getting of the necessary nutrient from the food to make sure. I wonder what food did she mention which food she's eating?
No.
What is the nutritional deficiency associated with osteoporosis?
Well, usually it's a mineral absorption issue.
Yeah. See, I find it intriguing, and I could ask that question of a lot of so-called health experts, and I would get a Jackie Gleason on that. Hamada. Right? This gets a little complicated. So. It gets a little complicated.
Or vitamin D. There's a lot. But again, people can't necessarily. There's a lot of people that can't. People with ulcerative colitis, for example, have a tremendous amount of difficulty absorbing vitamin D. So deficiencies in vitamin D and calcium actually can. Those are considered nutritional deficiencies.
Would you consider osteoporosis to be a unhealthy diet and lifestyle problem?
Oh no, not necessarily.
You think there's a genetic component as well?
I do. I think there's a genetic component, and I also think that there could be. I mean, just like for example, small, petite Asian women are at greater likelihood of developing osteoporosis.
And why is that? Just the physical stature?
All of these questions. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, it's their physical stature. Exactly. Their bones are much smaller.
Isn't this interesting? How
and their weight, their own body weight, is much lighter than, let's say, okay, without getting too technical here. So let me say this better. I don't want to be stereotypical. So a lot of Asian women are small and petite in frame, right? They lend themselves to what we call ectomorphs. They're thin. They're not really tall, so they're on the petite side, but they're ectomorphic more than they are endomorphic or mesomorphic, with more muscle mass on them. And just by way of weighing less, they don't have as much stress on their bones. And by weighing less and having a more petite structure, you're not actually stimulating bone density and bone growth.
Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about that, the process of how bone is made, and how things get how that gets cycled. We'll get into that in the second hour. This topic is more complicated than people understand, and it deserves. That's why I wanted to talk about it. We'll take our time, and if you have questions, we want you to don't hesitate to call. Don't worry. Your question, every question's a good question. What is remodeling? What is remodeling or bone turnover? How is that coupled with bone resorption? What does that mean? What is that? Well, we'll try to break that down in the next hour and lay it out, and then provide, some dietary and lifestyle recommendations that can help you sustain your bone health. Let me ask you, once you have osteoporosis, can you reverse it?
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. Some people say, this is one that this gets to the myths. We'll get into all of that too. You are listening to Let's Talk Nutrition, where we're, we go after these these topics that are of practical importance to you. It does get complicated, but we try to talk about it in a way that's comprehensible. We'll do our best at that, and we'll see how we do today. Every day's a different day, and every topic's a different topic. But I have a good guest, and she knows what she's doing, so that'll be helpful. I need all the help I can get. You are listening to Let's Talk Nutrition.
You're so humble.
We do, man. I need all the help I can get, brother. I'm just a sample of one, Gary. Hi. Talking about bone health today. And, I got to tell you, I've had to work my way through that topic and figure it out. And I spent all last week in one of my courses. We were talking about minerals, mineral deficiencies, and markers, lab markers for various mineral deficiencies. And, of course, calcium was one of the minerals. Calcium and zinc came up in the discussion throughout the week in the course. And, of course, osteoporosis was a big deal. And I learned a lot during the course of the week. And as I thought about it, I said, it dawned on me, ding, 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 in my head. I said, we haven't been talking about bone health enough on the show. We used to a lot. And then, I drift in and out of things. I have to remind myself that there are certain topics that you have to stay on. This topic is crucial. So let me just do a very brief tutorial to set this up a little bit so that Dominique doesn't have to work so hard to explain stuff and I ask a gazillion questions. I ask questions oftentimes I know the answer to, sometimes I don't. But I ask the question to provoke thought and conversation and to enlighten. Okay, when we're talking about bone health, there's the concept of bone remodeling. All right, what is that? It's a process where bone is made and bone is destroyed, called bone remodeling. And it gives bone its mature structure, this remodeling process. And it's a balance between bone that is made and bone that is destroyed. The body regulates those two processes. You don't want too much of one or not enough of the other, and so on. And this maintains normal calcium levels in the body. How so? Well, destruction of bone, which is called resorption of bone by large cells called osteoclasts, releases calcium into the bloodstream. Follow that? Mm-hmm. So when bone is destroyed or resorbed, calcium gets released into the bloodstream to meet the body's metabolic needs. And it simultaneously then, too, allows the bone, which is inhibited by its inorganic component from growing by cell division, like other tissues, to alter size and shape as it grows to adult proportions. So while osteoclasts resorb bone at various sites, you have other cells called osteoblasts. They make new bone to maintain the skeletal structure. So osteoclasts destroy bone, osteoblasts make new bone. During childhood, bone formation outpaces destruction. That makes sense as the child grows. After skeletal maturity is reached, after you become an adult, the two processes have to be put into balance. And osteoclasts, remember those are the ones that destroy bone, act on the inner surfaces of bone in the marrow cavity and the spaces of what they call cancellous bone to widen these cavities. They also act on the outer surfaces to reduce bony processes, such as these, what they call epiphyseal swellings at the ends of the long bones of the arm and leg. Osteoclasts, remember what they do now, they destroy bone. That activity paces behind, I don't want to I'll leave that go. Just know this, that between these two processes, as an adult, they have to be put into balance. All right? And if you have too much destruction of bone, if there's too much resorption going on and not enough making of bone, then you have a problem. And this is where osteoporosis gets. In other words, when resorption is outpacing the synthesis of new bone, that's problematic. Now, I'll ask Dominique to check my work, and with the aforementioned Dominique Ostrander, here she is. Welcome back. Did I say anything that caused you to you fell out of your chair and said, "Oh my God, he doesn't know what he's doing over there"?
No, actually, you didn't. And just for point of reference, I know that the questions are to provoke thought. I was just kidding, just so you know.
No, you weren't.
About the question. No, I really was.
No, I'm messing with you, man.
Yeah. So, no, I love what you said. You actually explained it very easily, and and one of the reasons that I loved what you said was because the osteon microcrystalline hydroxyapatite, or as we lovingly abbreviate it, MCHA. Actually, because when you're talking about osteoblasts, so hydroxyapatite actually produces more prolonged calcium balance than other soluble calcium salts. So this also allows bone osteoblast cells to be more receptive to the components and to build bone tissue. Mm-hmm. And this is a really important thing because a lot of other bone-building supplements are not actually proven to do this. So, and, of course, Jarrow, we have clinicals, and so we have an 8-week double-blind placebo-controlled study of 24 females, ages 18 to 24, that were supplemented with bone-up, not a placebo, and was found to produce statistically significant decreases in markers of bone degradation, while also increasing levels of plasma bone-specific alkaline phosphatase, when you were talking about blood work, an indicator of bone synthesis, plasma 2,5-OH vitamin D, which is an indicator of vitamin D nutritional status, and also plasma parathyroid hormone. You asked the question before we went to break if osteoporosis is reversible. And it can definitely be slowed. And in my humble opinion, it can be reversed. Mm-hmm. That would be the goal, is, of course, of supplementing with calcium. And even if you're at the point where your physician's like, no, you have to be on a prescription drug, then obviously the idea of the prescription drug is to reverse osteoporosis. But as far as blood work goes, that was another question that you had asked. And so the average adult, for example, has
both urine and blood tests. There some. I was reading an article. They were talking about a paradigm shift. I know the DEXA scan. We'll tell the people what that is in a minute. They were arguing in the article that you can use urine and blood samples to help identify and treat osteoporosis. I'm just saying that's what they were arguing. They weren't saying.
The irony is that you can actually have completely normal calcium levels while bone loss actually can be considerable.
That's true. Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm a little. That's why I'm like, oh, maybe DEXA scan.
that is bone mineral density, BMD, right? Bone mineral density. That's what a DEXA scan is measuring, right?
It is. It's a non-invasive test to assess the risk of fracture. So it actually stands for dual energy X-ray absorptiometry.
Mm-hmm. That's a fancy word. That's why they call it DEXA scan. Exactly. It's hard to say that.
It's a loving abbreviation.
It's hard to say that when you're chewing double bubble. There's a flashback. Double bubble.
No, actually, John, the coach of the Lightning chews double bubble.
I like double bubble, man. I used to blow. I was the champ in the neighborhood with double bubble. All right, we'll get into this a little bit more. Men and women will address some of the myths about osteoporosis. Can't make it up either. Ridgecrest Herbal. 2 million men in the U.S. suffer from osteoporosis. There are two types of osteoporosis, primary and secondary osteoporosis. Primary osteoporosis occurs spontaneously. Secondary osteoporosis is caused by another disorder or by a drug. So more than 95% of osteoporosis in women and about 80% in men is primary. Most cases occur in postmenopausal women and in older men. Now, watch what happens here. A major cause of osteoporosis is a lack of estrogen. That's one of the risk factors, particularly the rapid decrease that occurs during when? Every woman knows the answer to that. Menopause. Most men over 50 are estrogenic, have higher estrogen levels than postmenopausal women, but these levels also decline with aging. And low estrogen levels are associated with osteoporosis in both men and women. Estrogen deficiency increases bone breakdown, which is called what? Resorption, and results in rapid bone loss. In men, low levels of male sex hormones also contribute to osteoporosis. Bone loss is even greater if calcium intake or vitamin D levels are deficient. Low vitamin D results in calcium deficiency, and increased activity of the parathyroid gland causes the glands to release too much parathyroid hormone, which stimulates bone breakdown. You see how this works out, man? For unknown reasons, bone production also decreases. You also got other things going on, certain drugs, tobacco use, heavy alcohol use, a family history of osteoporosis. These are all risk factors. Small body stature, which my guests keenly point out, especially in age and women, increase the risk of bone loss and development of osteoporosis in women. These risk factors, I repeat, are also important in men. I hope I made myself clear. Dominique, welcome back.
Thank you, Dr. Garko. Yes, you did, actually.
Yeah.
Very clear. So, and smoking is a huge risk factor.
Smoking and drinking, and not doing weight-bearing exercises will get you in a lot of trouble. There are people. I remember one time being in the gym, and this woman walked up to me, and she was very distraught. I said, "What's the matter?" She said, "I was diagnosed with osteopenia." I said, "Really?" She said, "Yeah." She said, "I'm in here working out." I said, "But I don't see you lifting weights. I see you on the treadmill, and I see you doing that. But I don't see you lifting a lot of weights. You need to do the weight-bearing exercises." And then finally she got it into her head to do that. So you still go to the gym,
right? And
right?
that's a problem for a lot of people, is just the ability or to have mobility and to be able to perform weight-bearing exercises. That's a big problem.
So the bone up, you take 6 a day. I know that some people let's just address that right up front. That can lead to non-compliance. Some people say, "My God, six of them." Yes, 6. Why so many, I wonder?
Well, it's to get the adequate dose, and so the problem is that certain components, raw materials, are bigger than others, and so minerals, like even magnesium supplements, if people notice, tend to be bigger than, let's say, other supplements that they might take that are not mineral based, and it takes a lot. It takes up a lot of space, and so in order to get the adequate dosing and not have a gigantic, impossible to swallow pill, we have to break it up into 6 capsules.
I see. I mentioned, or I alluded to, secondary causes of osteoporosis. Less than 5% of osteoporosis in women and about 20% in men is secondary. What does that mean? Like if you have Cushing's disease, hyperparathyroidism, hyperthyroidism, hypogonadism, high levels of prolactin, diabetes, mellitus. Those will contribute to osteoporosis. Certain types of cancer, multiple myeloma, will cause secondary osteoporosis. Rheumatoid arthritis, certain drugs will do it. That may cause secondary, or progesterone, corticosteroids, thyroid hormone, certain chemotherapy drugs, anti-seizure drugs. So there are a lot of risk factors here floating around in the ether that you can, be susceptible or suffer from. That's secondary. But in large measure, diet and lifestyle could help prevent a lot of this, couldn't it, Dominique?
I would say so. I mean, obviously, quitting smoking, cutting down significantly on alcohol intake, getting more active, all of those things would definitely help contribute to not only overall health, but definitely bone density. Mm-hmm. And it's just, again, it's sort of one of those subjects like you brought up very first when we first started the show, is that it's not something that people readily think about. It's like people don't readily think about their vision either. There are certain things that people just, take for granted and don't really pay any attention to until it becomes a problem. Like, I lost my balance and I fell and I fractured my hip, and then you find out, wow, I have osteopenia or I have osteoporosis.
Okay. Dual energy X-ray absorptiometry, DEXA, DXA. That's the test that's the screening technique to measure bone density at the finger or the heel. Dual energy X-ray absorptiometry. I always stumble over that.
Don't be stressed out or anxious.
Let's Talk Nutrition. Dominic Ostrander's my guest today. I'm glad she's here because helped me with this topic about osteoporosis. In terms of bone density testing, you can use that to detect or confirm suspected osteoporosis even before a fracture occurs. Just please keep this in mind. You have a number of rapid screening tests are available to measure bone density at the finger or the heel, as I was saying, or trying to say, dual energy X-ray absorptiometry, DEXA, which can be used to measure bone density at these sites. However, results of screening tests should be confirmed with conventional DEXA. Conventional DEXA, which is the most useful test now, measures bone density at the spine and hip, which are the sites at which major fractures are likely to occur. You've had that test done. It's painless, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's painless. And there's no real prep other than don't take mineral supplements like the day of the test.
Okay. It can also detect DEXA, the dual energy X-ray absorptiometry test, can also detect osteopenia, which is the forerunner to osteoporosis. Yes?
Correct.
Okay. I was looking at food. Can you eat your way into adequate calcium levels?
That's a heavy-duty question.
That's why I asked it.
Yeah,
I'll give you my answer.
Okay, go ahead.
No. No. Why do I say
no?
I say I sound like a little kid. No. I'll tell you why I say no. Given the way we eat, this diet, this highly processed, obesogenic, have a heart attack diet that we have, I could go on and on. No way. There's no way.
Exactly.
If we were eating wholesomely, yes, maybe. I think supplementation here is where supplementation serves a wonderful purpose. That's my opinion. What's your opinion?
Well, and it's funny because I was reading an article from, I think it was Harvard School of Health or something, and one of the physicians that was commenting on that exact question, can you eat your way? And she's like, well, I just recommend having a diet, Mediterranean-based diet and,
baloney.
All these things, and don't take, and, it's just, okay, because, the average person doesn't, and trust me, there are people that eat really, really healthy and still have issues. And, it's sort of the same thinking of like, I do all the right things, but yet I still got sick. How does that happen?
What do the tell me the 6 capsules of Bone Up every day, how much calcium does that provide in milligrams?
For the total, like if you were to actually take all 6 capsules.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, if you were to actually take all 6 capsules, then we would have a quantity of, let me just double check this.
It's all right. Take your time. While you're doing that, let me just share with you some foods and the amount of calcium. Almonds.
So it's 1,000 milligrams.
Okay. Check this out. Almonds, 1 ounce, 80 milligrams. Arugula, 1 cup, 125 milligrams. Bread, 1 slice, whole wheat, 30 milligrams. Broccoli, 1 cup, 180 milligrams. Buttermilk, not lately. 1 cup, 284 milligrams. I'm just picking stuff out here. Ice cream, a half a cup, 84 milligrams of calcium. Kale, cooked, 1 cup, 94. Sesame seeds, whole roasted, 1 ounce, 280 milligrams. Soy milk, calcium fortified, 299 milligrams. I mean, you have to be eating. You got to be That's what I was trying to get at. It's not so easy to get. What was the level? How many those 6 capsules provide?
It's 1,000 milligrams, and it's elemental calcium.
So 1 gram. You have to eat. You have to be eating a diet that is these foods that are rich in calcium to start with, and eating enough of it. I mean, who's doing that every day? So that's why I said no. I got you off the hook.
Thank you.
You're welcome. 877-897-8255, 877-897-TALK. I still can't get this image out of my head. One day I was sitting at a red light, and this man, it broke my heart. I mean, I got upset. He was trying to get across the street, and he was hunched over. He was so hunched over, he had to hold his head up to make sure that the light was still green for him to cross. He was so bent over. The hunchback.
Mm-hmm.
And he had osteoporosis. And I just looked and I thought, my God, didn't anybody see that he was in trouble at some point? And that's how he was walking around in life, bent over, looking down at the ground. It was, yeah. I mean, doesn't have to be like that.
Heart-wrenching.
Oh, it made me weep. It made me weep.
Mm-hmm.
I just, it upset me to see this poor soul. And I'm thinking, you know what? It was preventable. It was preventable. Most likely, unless he had something going on genetically, and he maybe had Cushing's disease. I don't know. Who knows? I don't know. But anyway, vitamin D. Now that you brought it up, that's important for bone health. You all have a pretty good vitamin D. I take it. Your vitamin D3 product.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank
you. I think so too. We have we have it in 2,500. We have 1,000, 2,500, and 5,000 IUs, and we also actually have a vegan vitamin D3 also.
Is it in Bone Up as well?
There is D3 in Bone Up.
You guys, one of the trademarks or hallmarks of Jarrow Formulas, you guys don't chintz on the amount, the ingredient amount in the products. You put a wholesome amount in those products.
Right, exactly. So the vitamin D that's in the 6 capsules is 1,000 IUs of vitamin D.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you go. Got to take care of your bones, man. Men and women. Men and women. Especially if you don't go to the gym, you don't do weight-bearing exercises. Swimming will not do you any good for osteoporosis. Forget about it. Won't. Jumping rope, walking, things like that, yes. Weight-bearing. 877-897-8255. So many things to consider, right, to stay healthy. Here we are just talking about bone health. You can see, you say, okay, well, this is simply resolved. Get you some Bone Up. Take your 6 capsules a day. Be diligent, and you don't have to fret. We'll have the LTN health question of the day.
Want to get it?
of the day. Earlier, I was talking about this process of remodeling. Remodeling involves the making of bone and the destruction of bone. And these two processes work in tandem, especially in adulthood. You can't have one outpacing the other. In either case, you can't have too much bone being made and not enough being destroyed, or vice versa. When we're growing up as children, as we move through development, the making of bone outpaces the destruction of bone. That makes sense, right? Okay. Then I identified the cells that are responsible for the synthesis or the making of bone and for the destruction of bone. Which type of cell cells are responsible for the making of bone, the synthesis of bone? Osteoclasts or osteoblasts? Which one of those two? Which one is responsible for making of bone? Osteoclasts or osteoblasts? Here's the number to call.
877-897-8255. That's 877-897-TALK.
Osteoporosis is a multifactorial disease. It involves genetics, which are not modifiable. It also involves epigenetics, which are modifiable variables. Dominique, welcome back. Thanks for helping out today with this topic. You really helped me get through this. It does get a little complicated. I mean, it's not overwhelming. This is not, impossible to learn. I'm glad you're here to talk about it and give a firsthand account. So, did you ever take your DEXA scan?
No, actually, I had it a couple years ago, maybe a little more than a couple years ago, but I do need to have it done. So, again, because of the possibility of a secondary osteopenia.
Because of a drug that you
not
take.
Primary.
Because
secondary. Exactly.
Yeah. So, you have the bone up, 6 a day, 3 in the morning, 3 with breakfast, 3 with dinner. Would that get it done?
I would say that, yeah. I would say that doing the 3 and 3 is probably. I mean, you could do 2, 2 and 2 also.
Okay.
I think that would be okay too. We do have a vegetarian bone up as well. So people that are vegetarian and are looking for something that doesn't have a bovine source, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have that available. It's a calcium citrate. It's a vegan form of calcium known for its significant solubility, and that's even when gastric levels are low.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know that there's probably somebody out there listening or watching the show saying, well, you know what, I'm just going to go where I buy my lawn and garden supplies, and they have supplements there. Those are cheap. I'll get some calcium there. I would beseech you not to do that. One of the worst things you could do is to take a calcium product that doesn't have the cofactors in it to make sure that the calcium is going into your bones and not other places in your body. You would be better off not to take it. You have a comment about that?
No, I agree. That was part of the issue that a lot of physicians were having in a lot of the articles that were published relatively recently about excess calcium and is it safe? And, everything from, creating an atherosclerotic process to kidney stones and, different calcifications and stuff. So it's important to have a proven bone building supplement.
That's why when it comes to fish oil products, no. Get the good product. When it comes to calcium products, again, quit buying your supplements where you buy your lawnmower. Don't do that. Just don't do that. And these big box stores, you can go in there, and I've seen it. I'm not going to mention any names. I shop in some of these stores. The prices are right. But I won't buy my supplements there. I go to the health store. Mm-hmm. That's where you go. If I want a lawnmower, I don't go to the furniture store. Why would you buy your supplements where, they're selling all this other stuff? Go to some place where they specialize in it. That's my opinion. 877-897-8255. Which cells are responsible for the making of bone? Osteoclasts or osteoblasts? Which one? Guess. Win a $25 supplement gift card. What's on your agenda for today? You hanging out, going to the beach, drinking pina coladas? What are you doing?
Yeah, all of the above.
When's the last time you've been to the beach?
Oh my gosh, when was the last time I was at the beach?
It's a long. It took you that. Took
a
that
year and a half ago.
Okay, I never go, and that's a shame. Why? We live in Florida and we don't go to the beach. Why is that? The sun? We're afraid of the sun.
I take it for granted, probably.
Yeah. It's interesting. The tourists at the beach, the natives that live here, people who live here, we don't go to the beach too much, although some people live on the beach. Any breaking news from Jarrow Formulas? Anything new? I know you got the...
Soon.
Oh,
soon there'll be breaking news.
Really?
Soon. That's all I can say.
Really? Is it good?
Soon.
Is it going to be good?
I think so, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I can say right now.
Just out of habit, please mention your probiotic products to the people because you guys do such a great job with those.
Oh my gosh, yes, happily. So Jarrow Formula is known for our probiotics. Jarrodophilus, EPS, shelf-stable probiotic, Saccharomyces boulardii, Jarrodophilus for women, Jarrodophilus mood, Jarrodophilus allergen-free, shelf-stable. We have a refrigerated one, the original Jarrodophilus.
All right, hold on. Let's go to Pam in Peoria. Pam, what's the answer?
A blast, possibly?
Yeah, osteoblasts. Blasting to get new stuff. That's how I remember. Osteoblasts are responsible for the making of bone. Osteoclasts are for resorption, the breaking down of bone. Congratulations. You won a $25 supplement gift card.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
We appreciate you. Thank you for listening to us. We're grateful. And thank you for helping out today. You helped me a lot today. Get through this.
I'm glad.
Get me through this topic. You're good. You're good at this. We appreciate you. Jarrow Formulas.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah, it's easy. Easy to thank you. Jarrow Formulas. Take their products because your health is your wealth. Can't go wrong.